This area between Lolo and Florence is usually really quiet, but there's a loud fight happening right now between the mining company who operates this gravel pit and the neighbors who live here. And this year, possibly more than ever, it's harder to acknowledge those names because the conversation about houselessness here in Missoula has become so polarized. I was scrolling through Instagram the other day when I saw this photo. It's one of a rattlesnake shared by Mountain Bike Missoula here on Marshall Mountain. I'm bringing your news today from Polson on the shore of the beautiful Flathead Lake, where I want to share two stories that both take a look back and try to look into the future. There's a lot of talk online and in City Hall about the unhoused in Missoula. Now, the Missoula Economic Partnership released findings that may help shine a light on the number of homeless people in Missoula.
No bike lanes and few pedestrian walkways like this one make crossing Brook Street very difficult if you don't have a car.
Where LMPD says that the suspect's car was found. Now, neighbors tell me the car was flying down the road here with LMPD behind them when the car ran over this mud and into the ditch. I'm back on the Montana campus to share what you need to know about this upcoming week. First, the Bitterroot National Forest is hiring new wildland firefighters Tuesday, accepting walk-ins from noon to 7. Welcome back. And Danny, it was so warm yesterday.
I know.
I counted. I saw 3 people wearing shorts. I'm here to take you out and about today on the route of the Hiawatha. It's a 15-mile bike ride, but don't worry, it's not too difficult. It's a nice, gentle downhill the whole way. It wasn't exactly the heist of the century, a two-man job where they took about $20 out of this tip jar right here. But the employee that money was for, he'd only been working here about a week, and that money was really important to him. If you're my age or older, you probably remember connecting to the internet and hearing this sound. Not only was it noisy, it was really slow. You'd click a website, go make a cup of tea, and then come back and it'd be ready. So now that election day is behind us, the votes are mostly counted. We now have a clearer view on who will be facing off in November. Montana has a key voice in which party will control the United States Senate, and there were some surprises in the local races. Let's jump into those numbers now. Many people like to throw a Super Bowl party, inviting their friends and family over for a meal and to watch the big game. But here at Reds, they do something a little different. The owner tells me that the regulars here are his family. The Bitterroot Winter Special Olympics are underway, and I am so excited to take you along for all of the action. Welcome to Lost Trail at Sula. I'm up here because viewers like you have asked for the news to come to your town, and I'm so excited to share this story. Do you get to see friends each year here too?
Yeah, friends here, yeah, Chris, a couple of other friends, yeah.
Anyone you want to give a shout out to?
My future wife.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, John, this emo music behind me, it may sound really angry, but I'm seeing a lot of smiling faces here. Now, everyone in the room, they've been vaccinated. They had to prove it at the door. This is the new Main Street in downtown Clarksville. You can see this row of homes, they're all going to be demolished. Soon it's going to be 12 to 14 blocks of development. Under the shadow of the toothpaste factory, luxury apartments and businesses are already popping up. The sound of the rotor blades, memorable for generations. For the veterans who fly today, it makes a big difference being here.
And the sounds of it, you never forget the sound of a Huey. It's a live, living museum because you can get the seat of the pants. You get to feel a little bit what it was like in Vietnam.
The average Missoulian family needs to be making $160,000 to buy a home in the town right now. You know, is there anything that you think Congress can be doing or is doing to help alleviate that and make that gap a little smaller?
Yes, so there's been 2 separate shootings about a block and a half away from each other. I'm here at 22nd and Magazine Street. I'm going to step out of the way. You can see into the intersection here. There's a little bit of medical supplies left. But all you Monday commuters, you're going to have to find a different route. Now take a look. This is if the rain holds out. Construction is already going on right now.
How do you feel when you see the success stories? When people learn that actually I can cook for myself, I can feed myself because of this thing you're showing them?
I enjoy coming to work every day.
It's early evening at the Mount Washington Police Department, and Kentucky conservation officers are going over the plan.
Let's get these deer out there first.
Load up 2 lifelike deer decoys, head out into Bullitt County, and set the traps.
You got the head for this one?
Officer Logan Reynolds is leading the operation.
So we're not looking to entice someone who's otherwise a legitimate hunter. We try to place the decoy or place it in an area that's only going to be seen by somebody who's purposely looking to catch it with a spotlight or shoot it after hours.
Welcome to another edition of Current Events with the editor of the Missoula Current, Martin Kisson. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you.
It's a beautiful day, and we're out here at McCormick Park because the city has been talking a lot about urban camping. I know we've talked about it before, but since the last time, what's happened? We are all aware that if a crime is committed, you're supposed to report it so that the justice system can handle it. But what if your situation involves a lot more red tape? So much so that sometimes crimes never make it to prosecution. The Weir Hot Springs are nestled deep in the Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest, but they're getting a lot of attention, and it's not hard to see why. Hot water bubbling up from the ground in the middle of this winter wonderland. But this beautiful place has a big problem. All of these visitors are loving it to death. The gentle, bubbling water of Weir Hot Springs is a great place to get away from it all.
It's pretty simple. It's hot water in a cold environment that's peaceful and serene.
Brady and Stephanie have come to the water together before and have built great memories.
So for me, this is like a special place for us.
But Brady said more people are coming since the pandemic began.
Things got flooded, and social media, you can't hide where the places are.
With more people came more problems, and the U.S. Forest Service had to step in.
Becoming too inebriated and falling out of Weir Creek Hot Springs down the rock face. Actually wrestled a mule deer to the broken windows and the shot up door. I wish I could say that it was isolated, but we're seeing more and more of it.
Brandon Napton is the district ranger in charge of overseeing the area that includes the springs. He said most of the bad behavior is easily avoided with a simple step.
We like to preach, so to speak, or leave no trace. It's amazing how beverage containers get heavier after they're consumed, or so it seems.
The hike to the springs is perilous in the winter. Easy to see how a drunk person could slip and get hurt. At the trailhead, the vault toilet is trashed, leading to more people defecating in the creek. A warning sign is also posted, saying that if you get hurt, nobody is coming to help you. Still, it's the crimes that have the Forest Service taking action. Last year, Idaho State Police issued 49 misdemeanor violations for drugs, alcohol, and paraphernalia infractions at the hot springs. Even more problematic, police have twice found victims of human trafficking, naked and alone in the night.
There are a lot of people's folks when they were younger told them, nothing good happens after 10 p.m.
That's why the springs will now be closed every night, open from 6 in the morning to 8 at night Pacific time. Anyone caught out after that deadline will receive a citation. It's already changing visitors' plans.
So we planned on coming out last night and didn't know the curfew was 8 p.m., so we chose to stay in the cabin until this morning.
Napton said he hopes people understand that for a little inconvenience, they ensure the next generation also gets to enjoy the land.
It is a small fraction of the folks that are kind of causing issues for the good folks that are taking in garbage sacks to haul out anything that they encounter out there.
If you'd like this place to stay open for everyone, please practice leave no trace principles. In the Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest, James Dobson, MTN News. We've shared a lot of stories about egg prices recently. Egg prices have increased 150% in January compared to last year. And farmers are pointing to the high prices of fuel, cartons, and even the chickens themselves. But biologists say it's also because of avian influenza. The CDC says more than 58 million birds have been impacted. And it's not just farm birds getting infected. This morning, we go to the Mission Valley, where bird watchers have found wild birds are also in danger.
Good look at a rough leg. If you want to see a rough leg through the scope,
This is Larry Weeks in the Mission Valley in the dead of winter, looking for birds.
We have seen a great horned owl in these trees to the right here in the past.
I rode along with Larry as he hosted a field trip of the Five Valleys Audubon Society, looking for birds like eagles or red-tailed hawks. Why are you a birder? Why do you do it?
Because this guy in the back seat.
Yeah?
He's the one who got me started in birding.
Larry started birding with his son, Ron, as a way to connect more than 40 years ago. I describe them both as eagle-eyed, getting fast glimpses of the top predators in the air.
That's definitely a light phase red-tail that harassed it. Wait, I'm going to try and get a picture of this thing flying by.
They're not out to get photos of pretty birds. They're keeping track of what they see for the National Backyard Bird Count. The number of raptors they saw were about half of what they expected. These sick hawks are threatening another bird in the valley.
We're making less money now than we did before the avian flu started, even with the price increases.
Chase Walkup runs Mission Mountain Organic Eggs in the same valley we searched for birds. First, he dealt with the pandemic, now the bird flu.
It's not ideal, but we do everything we can to keep the birds healthy.
So since I can't go in, I got this camera rolling and I'm going to hand it to you. And I want you to give me a tour of what's inside the place. These 8,000 chickens have been locked up for a year. Only 3 people are allowed inside. Walkup has to make sure that even the clothes and boots he's wearing don't leave the farm and bring back the virus. So what does all of this mean for you and me? Walkup said egg prices are not coming down anytime soon.
Everything we buy, from our cartons to the birds themselves, all the feed they eat, everything's gone way up.
For the eggs to be organic, the chickens must not eat any food with chemicals and not be locked up in cages. Being cooped up during a Montana winter is normal, but when it's warm, they'd get to go outside and enjoy the fields. And that's where the wild birds become the problem. Jennifer Ramsey with the Montana Wildlife Health Lab says tens of thousands of wild birds have died because of the avian influenza. The lab has tested more than 200 dead birds and found 42% of them had the virus. Ramsey said this is a tiny fraction of the birds. Many die and are never found by scientists. As the birds begin to migrate this spring, the virus will likely spread as well.
We got a bird just landed on a wheel out there.
Even in the winter weather, Larry Weeks is out there, counting the birds, hoping that you count them too.
James, what a great story.
Thank you.
So after all this, what can we expect next with this flu?
Well, the ornithologists were telling me that the flu is likely going to stay around for a while. And what's worrying is that here in Montana, red fox, striped skunks, even grizzly bears have now tested positive for the virus.
Wow.
So I don't think it's going anywhere for the time being. Farmers are going to continue to have to quarantine and stay the course. I don't think egg prices are going to be dropping anytime soon.
Thanks so much, James.
Jeffersontown police say they've busted a crime syndicate that's responsible for a lot of the catalytic converter thefts here in Louisville. They say after a months-long investigation, one family was in charge of it all.
We often hear about, well, you get the low-hanging fruit. Well, we consider these to be high-level violators that were responsible for hundreds of catalytic converters that have been stolen throughout Jefferson County.
5 members of the Osmanovich family were arrested and facing Class B felonies, which have punishments up to 20 years in prison. One more was cited. Jeffersontown Police Chief Rick Sanders said the family raked in the cash.
There was about $180,000 in receipts for just a 3 or 4 month period. So this is a major organization, and just as important, it's a major pain to the citizens of Jeffersontown.
All that pain because of this: platinum metals inside a catalytic converter. We've told countless stories over the years about thieves taking these exhaust parts from under cars. Some of those may be in this van. Converters, big and small, completely filled the vehicle, a fat hog ready to go to the black market. Attorney Scott Drabenstadt explains what the illicit money funds.
These items are generally stolen by individuals that are seeking to sell them for cash to then utilize that for drug purchases.
The Osmanovich family was uncovered by police when a petty thief unknowingly led detectives to the home where the converters were traded for cash. Then, police searched 2 South Louisville homes and several storage units and found the stolen goods. Chief Sanders was surprised at the scale of the discovery.
I was shocked to see the amount of catalytic converters that they had. So I think they were probably putting those in the van, ready to take them to where they sell them, and it was going to bring thousands upon thousands of dollars. But unfortunately, there's a victim out here that's having to spend a couple of thousand to put their catalytic converter back on.
The arrests here are just the beginning. Now the next steps are for J-Town police to partner with other law enforcement agencies to catch whoever was scrapping the stolen goods. In Jeffersontown, James Dobson, Wave 3 News.
There's a company called U.S. Critical Materials that claims to have found one of the purest deposits of rare earth elements in North America that could be worth $1 billion. Rare earth is used in many of the electronics we use in our everyday lives, but also is the fundamental building block in developing batteries and magnets, things we need for electric cars and other green energy projects. So, is this a win for everyone? Bitterrooters say no.
They have the right to mine it. This is clear, but they don't have the right to pollute our environment.
Concerned members of the Bitterroot gathered at the North Valley Public Library last week to hear from Dr. Philip Ramsey, an expert on measuring the damage mining can cause to ecosystems.
The big question on my mind is, like, where should we be getting our rare earth elements? Should we get them from Butte? Or should we get them from Colstrip? We definitely don't want to get them from the Bitterroot.
They're not just questioning the mining company's ability to keep the river clean. They're worried about the financials of the company as well.
And when I read their promotional material, I could immediately see that they've got this narrative going that'll make them a lot of money. They're going to sell stocks.
Although U.S. Critical Materials is based in Utah, it's a shell company owned by organizations in Canada.
The use and the need for rare earths is now the most important thing in the world of technology.
I spoke with U.S. Critical Materials CFO Harvey Kay, who said that the reason they're choosing to mine now is profits.
But all of the elements that make this discovery as important as it really is have come to fruition literally at the same time.
The mining company informed the Bitterroot National Forest they plan to use hand tools to explore the Sheep Creek area later this year.
Our game is to find the site, develop the property, get it through, the permitting, get it through the exploration and the development phase. And then you're going to bring in, a partner.
It's all too early to say if the plan will be approved, though. What is clear, a coalition is growing to fight back.
Church groups should be against this mine, like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, like Trout Unlimited. There's so many groups that I think are all going to be against this mine.
U.S. Critical Materials has told me that they hope for the mine to be operating and profitable sometime in the next 5 years. In the studio, James Dobson, MTN News. It's almost a cliche now to say that water is life, but in front of me is a creek, just a few feet deep, but it supplies that life to more than 2,000 people in Hamilton. A recent project replaced more than 100-year-old infrastructure and hopes to let the Bitterroot grow.
It's all high desert, so without this water we have hardly anything. Nobody wants to be on a dried up golf course. Nobody wants to see a dried up hayfield. Nobody wants to see a dried up lawn.
Tim Michael has managed the ditches flowing into East Hamilton for more than a decade. One of just a handful of people keeping the water flowing for thousands of customers.
We're only 3 days away from a drought any day of the week, because it just seems like in 3 days a lot of our ground is pretty sandy and gravelly, and so every time you're down with a ditch, you've got lots of calls, you got a lot of people upset, and and they depend on it.
The reliable movement of water flowing from Skulkahoe Creek was in danger because the infrastructure to deliver it was around 100 years old. Last week, the Daly Ditches Irrigation District finished construction on a new steel siphon, which should last another century. The construction, including planning, took about 4 years and was paid for out of the utilities' savings. Michael said that although this $680,000 investment should bring peace of mind, it shouldn't let the people of Hamilton get wasteful.
Oh, I think everybody should see where their water and aquifers come from and how important our aquifers are. Not just the ditches, but I mean, they're so important to see what people are out there that are doing this. Even the city water and everything, that is so important. I mean, water is the most important thing we have. And
the water that the people of Hamilton use starts its life 30 miles east of town in the Sapphire Mountains. It flows along Skalkaho Creek into these new siphons and finally to the tap. This year, the snowpack is well below normal, and Michael said that they've had to be careful while the creek is flowing so slowly.
We have figured different ways to help move it, and we always want people to be conservative with their water. As the year goes on, if it is a problem, we'll start talking to people when they have to cut back and everybody has to work together.
The science shows that as global temperatures rise, we may have drier winters here in Montana, and that means less water. Tim wants to remind people to always be mindful of where your utilities and resources come from and be careful with your water use. Outside of Hamilton, James Dobson, MTN News. For more than 2 hours, Darbarians debated in their community center here whether or not they want a resort, hotel, and casino right next to their 2 schools. They debated whether or not it's the role of the city to stop it with their children's safety, the water usage, and whether or not this is going to bring in money or just be a blight on the city.
Would anybody here want their child to be the one that gets taken?
No.
Is one child worth this development?
No.
Pointed questions aimed at the Darby's Town Council Tuesday night picked apart the proposal for the Bitterroot Resort at Darby, the brainchild of Brooks Pace, a developer from southern Utah who recently moved to the area.
Follow the money. The money is who's for this.
The town and its council are split on the decision to build the $30 million resort at the north end of town. Proponents say it'll bring jobs and encourage more tourism dollars, while others say having a bar and casino so close to their schools threatens public safety.
He can have his highfalutin people. I'd much rather spend time with the people in this community because they care.
Others expressed worry about the viability of a luxury business in the city, worried that taxpayers will be on the hook for cleaning up a failed project.
This town is not economically healthy. If he doesn't know how to run that business, if he builds that business and it fails, what's going to happen to Darby?
I think Darby's mayor put it best when it comes to Pace's timeline. He has a liquor license he needs to use and he's motivated to build quickly. But she says his emergency is not the city's urgency.
You can always say yes. Once you have said yes, you can't say no.
So I just simply say to you as a friend and a former member of the council, I believe it would be very appropriate to table this matter until you have additional information.
The next steps are for Pace to formally submit records to the planning department of Darby. They'll comb through it, make sure everything is in order before giving it back to the city for a vote. That's going to take some time. In Darby, James Dobson, MTN News.
Martin Sowens, we will remember you.
Alan Wilson, veteran.
After the last light on the shortest day of the year, Missoulians gathered at the courthouse to read the names of those who are no longer with us. Every single one of them, the names of the unhoused that have died. On these paper lanterns are each written a name. There's 24 of them, the people that we've lost this year. And this year, possibly more than ever, it's harder to acknowledge those names because the conversation about houselessness here in Missoula has become so polarized. From the opening of the Johnson Street shelter early to the camping ban in our public parks.
We will remember them as artists and as comics and storytellers.
It was a quick memorial service, but people who attended said it was powerful, helping to remind all of us that homelessness isn't a vague issue, but a very real problem hurting real people.
It's really important to humanize the challenges that we're talking about. I think a lot of people forget that there's a person behind every data point, and that the person they might see sleeping on the sidewalk has connections, they have family members and people who really care about them.
Later this evening, there was a similar memorial held at the Johnson Street shelter. In Missoula, James Dobson, MTN News.